What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another new mini series with my friend Radar. How are you?
Great. It's always fun doing these little mini series with you,
They
and
are
I'm so
fun.
happy to be doing another one. Maybe it'll be like
Yeah.
a summer thing.
I was thinking that actually. I was thinking because it's taken me a long time to get back around so we could get these recorded, and I was thinking this would be a good like little summer thing. Did we do conspiracy theories? Was that summer?
Yeah, that was summer.
It was just in the summer. I was thinking for some reason, but yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right. Summer. Yeah.
I remember
So if
being
you,
sweaty during every single recording, so it had to be summer.
that's well, you had good company at least.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're not familiar with Radar and I's work, we have an entire playlist for our conspiracy theories conversations, which were, I don't care what anyone says, one of the funnest things ever. I had so much fun doing those. So
We're so nice.
we knew we wanted to do something else together. You have very different, I'm just going to preface with this. You have very different movie taste than I do.
It seems like we're on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to horror movies.
Respectfully so, because I love that if there's something weird, I can be like, I'm sure Radar can tell me what this is.
Yeah.
Helpful. And as always, Radar's links where you can find him, and of course his books are going to be in the description. Actually, why don't you talk about your newest one? I know these are going to go out in a little bit, but why don't you talk about the one that just came out for a minute? Give yourself a little
A little
promo,
plug. Yeah,
a little
so
plug. Yeah.
it's a grief horror, so scary and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
People who have read it have said mostly sad, but to each their own.
Right.
and
Yeah.
It's called How I Met the Monster. So it's all through the perspective of a monster as it's transported from another plane of existence to Earth periodically to harvest fear from a little girl. And as time goes on and it comes back over the years, it finds it harder and harder to get fear out of her because life has taken its toll and there are
Yeah.
just things in life that are scarier than it.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So it's a real bummer. If you
Yeah.
want to feel sad, read that book.
Well, I don't know if you found like I don't know if you like this niche that you're kind of getting into, but I love that that's what you're leaning because I mean, um, I just completely spaced. The name of the yellow brown book.
Drowning in the Drink.
Drowning in the Drink. Thank you. Sorry. I was like, in the drink, Angel. What is the first word and the name of the title of it? We do these after a long day at work, I should just say. Sorry. Drowning in the Drink was so good and such an
Oh,
emotional level. And I got so much out of reading that. And it was very cool to see because I've read your other stuff. So I know how kind of like quirky your writing can be and like fun and like like your sci-fi horror stuff that I read first was like my introduction to your writing.
right.
And so it was very cool to see that shift into something else. And I think you did very well at it. I thought it worked very well. So I'm excited that you've done something at least not similar in concept, but just as far as like themes and stuff. That's exciting. It's good.
Yep, I'm becoming a sad boy.
Oh, book wise only, right?
Bookwise only.
Yeah, very cool. So I'll have links on where you can find Radar and his books, of course, in the description for this episode. So what is the series? So the series we are doing is Radar sent me a list of 10 horror movies he thinks are underrated horror gems, and all of them except I think one were first watches for me.
Which
So
one was not? Oh, I guess we can't talk about that. Never mind. I was going to ask which one was the non-first one, but we don't want to spoil it.
we'll say the very drama oriented one. Is that helpful?
Ah, yes, I know
But
exactly
you
which
but
one.
you should probably know that that one because of who's in it was of course one I had already seen before.
Duh, I should
Um
know that.
But other than that, these will all be first watches. So we're just going to kind of do episodes on each movie. So we'll let the kind of format, we'll let Radar talk about why he picked this movie to be on the list, why he thinks it's underrated, what he loves about it. And then we'll just kind of jump into my thoughts on it as a first time viewer. Um, I am still Radar's friend. So obviously I made it through most of them without any issue. And I think some of these are going to be a super silly and fun conversation. So I'm looking forward to it. But so our first movie that we're going to start with is the 1981 classic Galaxy of Terror. Um, first watch for me. But you tell me why you put this on the list and what you think of this one.
Yeah, so when people are talking about sci-fi horrors, there's always like everyone always brings up Alien,
Sure.
Aliens. There's a couple other ones that always come about, but
Yeah.
Galaxy River never gets mentioned. And sure,
Okay.
you may have your own reasoning behind it, but
It's fine.
I think it's because it's like that sort of outside of the big Hollywood budget. It's obviously one of those films that said, "That's Alien. We can do something like that.
Mhm.
They're cheap." Uh, and just cut out all of the boring character development and and plot and story. We don't need all that garbage. Let's toss that in the junk. And I love the rapid pace of this one.
Yeah, it's quick.
It is a fast one. Like
Yeah.
I remember the first time I watched it, and like the deaths once and it's like 10 minutes in, the first death like happens, and then you're like, oh my god, they're not slowing down here.
No. Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
rapid pace, and I mean, just the deaths themselves are also pretty interesting, and the cast is fairly stacked.
Yeah.
Like Robert Englund before Freddy, you have Sid Haig, so it's like horror movie buffs are gonna watch this and go like, "What in tarnation?"
Yeah, it's got I was just looking at the cast list. Yeah, it's got well, and I think like I knew sort of what this was about, but I didn't know a lot about it and look into it. I didn't watch like a trailer or look who was in or anything. So when I went into it relatively blind other than knowing sort of the concept. And it was pretty cool to see some familiar faces. Going into something that was
Yeah.
not so familiar. So
I mean, I don't know how anyone could like be a first time watch to this and expect what you get for some of those.
you know what? I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing to say.
Uh-oh. I'm curious to know what were your thoughts first time viewing.
Um, I do like so sci-fi horror is one of my favorite subgenres. Don't laugh yet. I haven't even
Okay.
gotten through the hard parts. So I do. Let me start by saying I do really like sci-fi horror. I think the two just go together so well, so well. And it's one of those things where I think because sci-fi, in origin is cheesy, right?
Right.
It's very easy for somebody to do like I think a sci-fi horror and it be okay that it's not super serious, super complex. Like it can be simplified ideas where it doesn't really take the time to explain things, or like in this case when it's really fast paced and there's just a bunch of chaos going on, like it
Right.
works really well in a sci-fi horror space. That much I can say. um there were some scenes in this that were really uncomfortable to watch. I was like, the lady and the bug, or the lady and
Yeah, the
Eh,
worm, yeah.
the worm thing. I was like, I'm, like, trying not to picture it in my head, but I'm like, what was it again? It was a worm. It's
Yeah.
been a little bit since I watched these. But I think, like, I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is probably where that part of the internet came from." And so but aside from that, I do think it is a very well paced as far as the fast. I think the fast works really well. So for this type of story where they get there, they're like, "Oh shit," and then it's just crazy, literally crazy from like you said, like 10 minutes in until it's just over. Like it is very nutso in that regard. I do like that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think even the cast just decided to have like kind of fun with this. It didn't feel,
Right.
overly forced in a serious tone. Like I think that can be dangerous when you're trying to make a movie like this and then you try to make it super, super serious. Then it just doesn't really land. But I think because it felt like they were relaxed in what was going on, you as a viewer are not worried about that part of it. It just, yeah, it's definitely older in a lot of ways in terms of like, the what they were able to do effect wise. But having said that, I do think, given that I said this what came out in 81,
Yeah.
this came out in 81, and we always say practical is best because it ages the best. It's still, I mean, the like, for instance, the worm and stuff like that all looked very realistic. I think it's held
Yeah.
up. I mean, watching it, and I watched it at the end of last year, so in 2024, having seen it for the first time, it's like it was I wasn't like, "Oh, that part's really cheesy or over or underdone," or I mean, the stuff holds up really well. So I can say that for it. It's just in
Right.
general not my cup of tea. But I
Which
think
is fair.
I can see though why people would flock to this, or if people would like this movie. The pace is fun, the characters are fun, the deaths are insane. And I mean, you can't ask for something else to be so clearly defined as entertaining, you know? And so those are kind of my pluses. I mean, it's really just I think what it boils down to with this one in particular is it's not my type of sci-fi horror. I tend to be weary, and you know this. I'm very hard to please when it comes to like things that aren't super serious and super dark in like a serious way. And so this was just not necessarily something that I'd be like, oh yeah, this is like in my top 10 movies of all time. Like, um, but I'm surprised that I hadn't seen it, honestly, given the cast. I will say that.
Right. The cast is great, and I do have to ask also because clearly, obviously, the highlight of this one are the deaths. So, what was your favorite death?
My
That's right. Spoilers, everyone, for a 40-plus-year-old movie incoming.
I'm trying to okay, I'm trying to think of them all.
Clearly
Definitely
not
not
the worm.
I was just about to say, definitely not the worm.
That scene is infamous, and it's obviously infamous for a reason.
Yeah. That's not the first one though, right? There's one before that? I'm trying to
Oh,
remember them
death-wise,
all.
yeah. I thought you
Yeah, yeah.
meant with a worm doing that. I'm like, nope, Angel. That's the only time in cinema history that has ever happened. Um,
No, I meant death. That's not the first death because she gets separated from them as their so that's not the first one.
yeah, I
I'm trying to
think
remember what
it,
they meant.
and I can't remember the order. I'm pretty sure uh, there's like three deaths I think before hers.
Yeah, hers
Because
is like in the middle of the movie, right?
yeah, because there's like
Well,
one.
more or less in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and I think yeah, Sid Haig gets off first, like right before her.
Yeah, that one wasn't my favorite either. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it wasn't like too creative or anything like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have a favorite? An easy favorite? If
I
you
think
say the worm, I'm hanging up.
no, it's not the worm. It's the female lead because
The
like
brunette?
yeah, it's like because you're kind of confused. You're like
What's happening?
yeah, you're like what's going on for a second there, and you're like well, she's the female lead. She's the love interest. She's gonna get out of this, and
Oh,
then
that's true.
and then you're like oh my lord, she's not getting out of this, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and her fate was just like so much more brutal than everyone else's.
Yeah, hers was over the top. Well, I think hers is probably, I would say, the most memorable second to the worm, but I think for very different reasons.
Very
And
different.
yeah, I probably would say that one too. I don't think about the other ones at probably the same. I can picture hers really clearly. I can see the worm. I can sort of see Sid's in my head. But yeah, I think that one's definitely it doesn't that one take the longest? That one kinda takes a minute, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it takes a hot
extended.
minute
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
he's
it's
like,
extended.
yeah, because the main character's like, I'm coming,
I'm
and he's,
coming.
it's like, well, clearly you're not, good sir.
That took forever. Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably have to say that one
Yeah,
too.
probably that one. That's fair.
It's
I
definitely
have
the
to,
most memorable, I think, for sure. As
I
far as,
have to,
you know
yeah, and I have to give a shout out to whatever the hell they were just like, because this movie does some things that's like, that's a cool idea, and I
Yeah,
love how they don't like. For me, I love when movies don't do the whole backstory of all of this. You know, they have
there
like
is
this.
definitely not that.
Yeah, but they have like just like here's a cool idea. We're just gonna run with it. No need to explain it. And Sid Haig's character just
Yeah.
like having the crystal throwing things and just going like I live by the crystals. It's like I don't understand what this is, but I'm on board with it.
Yeah, it does feel like all of the things kind of together do feel like random ideas tied together by one common area, right? Because like I feel like the deaths are different enough that it's like it's not like yeah, I don't know. Like if you're watching Alien, just because we mentioned that earlier, just talking about
Right.
sci-fi horror, where there's two culprits. There's the face hugger and then there's the xenomorph. And those are the two things that cause damage, and those are the things that cause the death, and those are the things we're used to seeing. Whereas I felt like in this, it was like just different. Like it
Yeah,
was never just this one very specific thing. It kind of bounced around, which I think kind of added to like the pacing of it because that made it feel even faster. Because then it's like
right.
you got this one thing and you're like, all right. worm, got it. And then it's like the next thing, but it would like not be the same thing. And it did that pretty much from beginning to end as far as introducing deaths and the characters as they were dying off. So I think that kind of was fun too, as far as
Right.
just the quick change of things. I mean, chaos can be so fun in movies, and I think this worked very well in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, you have Robert Englund boxing himself at the end of the movie, and it's like no one could predict
I
that.
would not, that's not on the bingo card. Yeah, no, for sure. And I I don't know because I've seen Robert Englund in several things unrelated, right, to Nightmare on Elm Street, but I just definitely thought that like his overall story was just gonna go very differently. So it was a
Right.
very like what kind of, I think I messaged you through at least half of this. I think I messaged you at one point. I was like, what the fuck do you have me watching right now? And I remember messaging, like, a couple times while I was watching it, and try not to give you all of my thoughts and feelings on it, but because I know we're gonna talk about it, but yeah, that one, that's a wild one. Is that the worst one on this list? I have to ask, because there's, like,
Uh,
do you consider this, like, like, the most like, I don't know, extreme's not the word I'm looking for. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like, because some of the
maybe
other ones are very
ludicrous? I don't know.
maybe? Yeah, maybe chaotic, ludicrous, yeah.
Well, I would say it's the one that keeps you on your toes the most
Yeah,
because
'cause yeah, there's some
there's
weird ones.
there's one that's clearly the most ridiculous by a country mile, and
That's
it's
one of my favorites, I think.
yeah, and it's not this one. So
That's true. Yeah, I think the nature of it is the only thing that really kills it for me is just because I mean, the other one that we were kinda hinting at is also very out there, and I really loved it, but it took itself a little more seriously, I think, and maybe that's all it takes to, like, get me on board with these kind
get you
of
on board.
wacky movies, but The Worm is definitely mostly to blame. I was like, "This is too much.
Fair.
This is too much." I was like, "If all these movies are like this, I don't know. I don't think I could do it."
Thankfully,
But they're
that's
not. They're not, so
just randomly. I recommend some more movies in the future, and it's just one of the main characters is a giant worm. You're like, oh, I know it's coming.
yeah, if it comes from you and it's got a worm in it, I'm checking it off the list.
You're
I'm crossing
done.
it off the list. No, thank you.
No
Um,
Poltergeist 2 for you.
Poltergeist 2, I'm not even going down. Never mind, I'll ask you after we're done recording.
Oh,
I was gonna switch gears, I was like, "No, stay on topic." Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad I always am glad to go back and watch things, and I will say that as committed as I am to content and watching stuff, if something really is just, like, the worst thing I've ever seen, I really will just not finish it. So the fact that I could even get to the boxing part really is, you know, a testament to
the
how
Testament.
not awful it is in the grand scheme of things. But
Right.
I'm glad that I did sit through it. So now I've like got that in my little bank, I guess. And it's not like you know, I wouldn't have ever watched it probably if you hadn't put it on your list. So
My work here is done. that's, a, that's all I need to hear.
it's just so crazy. It's such a crazy movie.
It is. It's so weird. So I guess on the scale of underrated, overrated, or properly rated, how would you stick this movie in the three categories?
I would probably put this in. 'Cause I feel like I know you said, like, this kinda gets left off of stuff, but I feel like there are people that do talk about this movie or might
Hmm,
reference it in, like, I don't know, like a top 10 list or a top 5 list or
right.
something, or, especially people who are, like, really into '80s horror, I feel like this does come up, but it definitely doesn't come up by everyone, and I think
No.
that's probably because I feel like it's meant for a very specific group of people. So or
Yes.
type of audience, I should say, not group of people, but, um I don't know. I think the division makes sense to me. So I would say properly. I would say that I think I understand the chatter about it when people are excited to talk about it or really like it or
Right.
revisit it. But I also understand why, like, at least for me, why everyone's not talking about this all the time.
it's the worm.
It's the worm. So I
It's
think
the
like I
worm.
think it's properly rated. But you consider this like underrated. You don't think enough people talk about this one, right?
I think so, but I
Yeah.
will 100% like be realistic. Yeah, the worm drags that sucker down.
I did, and I'm really proud of myself for even finishing it, genuinely, because like, a lot of that stuff like, if stuff like that comes up in other things, I'm like, "I'm good. Like
Yeah.
I'm so, and especially because like as horror fans, as people who do content, we consume a lot of horror movies, good, bad, all the in between. And so sometimes you're like, I am just so sick of seeing not good stuff over and over. So like my tolerance for turning movies off now, like I turn things off within like 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't like the way they look. And I'm like, cut it off. Like it's
Oh,
so
really?
bad. It's gotten so bad. And so especially because I've been watching so much found footage, I'm like, oh my God. But anyway, but
Ah.
I didn't. I was like, no, I want to get through. I want to see what the rest of this has got to offer and see what other deaths, and Radar said it's
It's a
underrated.
it's a good one. And then no one agrees with me. That's
That
typically
can't
how
be
it
true.
goes.
Is this one that you and Rick have talked about? Does he like this one? Do you know?
Rick loves it. We have actually
Oh,
never talked about
see,
it though.
that makes perfect sense to me because he also is on a different side of the horror world than I am as far as like the movies and stuff that we like. We're very different, very different. And I like to remind people that we always have the deep house radar.
We do have the deep house. We do overlap on like 3 things.
Three things, and the rest we don't know what's going on.
We don't
That's
know what's
okay.
going
It
on.
works. I think it works very well for our dynamic. Yeah, well, cool. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm glad I watched it. I think if you're watching up to this point and you haven't seen it, we didn't discuss all the deaths in detail, so I do recommend checking it out. It was streaming when I watched it. It's probably still streaming somewhere. I'm not
Most
sure where.
likely.
But if you haven't watched it and you do really like weird sci-fi, kind of silly but not always silly movies, I think this checks those boxes. And this is it's definitely a one and done for me. Is this one you revisit?
I've done so twice since I saw it for the first time. This is not a film that's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll watch this every year," you
No,
know,
sure.
type of deal. Because it's like, I know what's a coming. There's no point, there's no point in going back to it. So,
What was when was the first time you watched this?
uh,
Do you remember?
had to be 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Okay, so not
Yeah.
like crazy long time ago.
Yeah, not like crazy long time ago. This is one of the ones I just stumbled upon of, like, semi recently. I
Yeah.
don't think it was during Spooktober, so I just randomly stumbled across
You
it.
just randomly. And you're a big fan of 80s horror, right? You like 80s horror?
I do love me some 80s horror because of the practical effects that they do, and it always seemed like, again, my favorite thing about, like, 80s horror and stuff like that is that they
Yeah.
won't explain stuff. They'll just go like, "This is the way it is." There's no over explanation, there's no
It is
big
very
jump.
simple, but it works. I mean,
It
I don't
works.
think I always tell people, horror is subjective. It does not always have to be, it doesn't always have to have like a big message. It doesn't always have to be heavy. It doesn't always even have to be scary to be considered horror. So it's
Right.
good to have a variety. And I think that's one of the things I love about the genre as a whole is that there's like stuff for everybody. Anybody that, I mean, like, this is stuff like this is the kind of stuff like my dad like so I grew up watching like cheesy sci-fi horror on the sci-fi channel with my dad, and this is like definitely the kind of thing they wouldn't have
Right.
shown this on the Sci-Fi Channel, or at least not all of it, but this is definitely the type of stuff that the Sci-Fi Channel showed as far as like,
Oh,
you know,
100%.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
think at least in that regard, it was a little nostalgic. It was like, okay, like, because that's the kind of stuff I grew up on. I grew up on like Langoliers and, just like
Oof.
off the wall, the original Planet of the Apes, which is not quite the same, but I think you get what my point. And
Right.
so, but anyway, but no, this was fun. I'm glad we at least I got to at least see it one time.
There you go. You can cross off the bucket list.
Yes, and yeah, so I think so out of the ones that I have, because there's one movie on the list that by the time we were recording this, I have not seen yet because it wasn't streaming, but I'll get to that one. But, of all of the ones, this was definitely the one that was the lower for me. I think the rest of them I liked way more than this one, so
Okay, we'll have
this
to
will
wait
be
till
the
the
only
end of the
one where
series.
yeah, this will be the only one where I'm mean to you, I'm sorry.
I mean, you weren't even that mean.
You said what was it you said? I did an update video, and you were like, "I go to watch your little update, and all I hear is bad mouth in my movie choices."
Oh, yeah,
I was like,
that one
"I'm
was
sorry.
brutal.
I didn't mean to be brutal. I was just trying to be playful and get people amped about the show." It's just like, that hurt my feelings. I'm sorry.
You were like, I was like, "Oh, yay, she's bringing up our show," and you're like, "This garbage films that Radar."
I'm
This fucking
sorry. You
weirdo.
know
No,
what?
I'm kidding.
That was mean. I'm sorry because I really did like the one we're talking about next. I really liked. I had a lot of fun with that one. So they were not all Galaxy of Terror, so it's fine. It was just this one just is not my cup
This
of
was.
tea. But I feel like you know me well enough. You probably could have guessed that without any feedback from me. Of all the ones on the list,
Yeah,
you probably were like, "This is probably not going to be her favorite," right? Um,
I had to throw a
but
few of those in there, a few wild cards.
yeah, there's some crazy stuff on this list. So I'll go ahead and tell you what we're going to cover on the next episode. We're going to be talking about we decided on The Brain.
Oh yeah, the 1988 one because there's like
Thank you. I was
700
trying to
movies
find my
called The
note.
Brain.
I was trying to find my note on the date and I couldn't remember what it was. 1988, The Brain. So we'll be talking about that in our next episode. So, if you want to watch that. That was also streaming a while ago. I'm sure it probably is still now.
I'm sure.
That one was fun. I'm looking forward to discussing that one because that one I did have a little more fun with than the Galaxy of Terror, but
Nice.
way to get this one in. And I'm glad,
You had
like I
to
said,
do
I'm glad I watched it. I'm experienced
it.
now. I'm good. Um, anyway. All right, cool. Well, that's gonna wrap up our first episode of Underrated Gems with Radar to Board. That's the name
Hot
I'm
dang.
gonna call this series.
Underrated
Um,
gems. I like it.
Underrated Gems. So as always, his links will be in the description for this episode. You can't get this shirt design anymore, but I will say you can get other merch if you'd like in the link as well. Otherwise, I think that's all we have for this episode. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next
Woohoo.
one.